Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Today we have a very good friend of the IVMF and of the veteran space joining us, Dan Savage. So Dan, thanks again for coming on for your second VetNet. You're basically a regular now. And many of you remember that Dan joined us previously back in May to do a VetNet session on how to leverage LinkedIn. And we're following up to that about how do we leverage it to grow your business. So currently Dan serves as the head of LinkedIn's Veterans Program and is responsible for identifying and leveraging lots of opportunities, including this, and resources to advance the employment situation of America's veterans. Prior to LinkedIn, Dan was an IVMF superstar, spent 4 years here, and like many nonprofits, he wore many hats, ranging from chief of staff to launching a national study of veteran-serving nonprofit organizations with the George W. Bush Institute. He also launched Onward Opportunity, a nationwide program that we still have to this day in collaboration with DoD and Schultz family. Dan is a former Army infantry officer who served in the 2nd Stryker Cavalry Regiment, and he was a veteran of the war in Iraq. He's graduated from West Point and Harvard. Very impressive there. So I'll be moderating today's session and assisted by Elvis Abzish, our entrepreneurship advisor and entrepreneurship post-program support. And he'll be monitoring the YouTube chat channel throughout to make sure that we get any questions you have asked to Dan and addressed. Remember, if you haven't seen the last session that we did, please be sure to check it out on IVMF's VetNet page on YouTube. So Dan, good morning, good afternoon, good morning for you, good afternoon for us, and welcome to VetNet. The floor is yours.
Good morning. It's so good to be back. And as you mentioned, I consider myself a friend of the IVMF and a program alum, if you will. I was with the Institute back in 2012, not too long after it was founded. So you guys are near and dear to my heart. And it's always enjoyable to be able to share sort of the tools that LinkedIn has built. And, usually I'm out there talking about how veteran job seekers can use LinkedIn. But very excited today to sort of support your entrepreneurship mission and talk about sort of how veteran and military spouse business owners can make the most of LinkedIn. So I'll share my slides here and we'll get rolling. Give me just a moment. Are we good there? This should be up now, I think.
Yes, we are. Very good.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, so today, a lot of folks think about LinkedIn and they typically think about LinkedIn as a job seeker, right? They think about how to build their profile to be relevant or, to be attractive to employers. But they don't always think, there's a lot of talk about personal brand in terms of being a job seeker, but your personal brand as an entrepreneur, especially as a brand new startup owner or someone who's even just sort of starting to get your idea off the ground, is really absolutely critical to invest in. And LinkedIn's tools, not just for yourself, we'll talk about today, LinkedIn's tools to articulate your own brand, but then also some tools to talk about your company's brand as well as how to sort of, hire the best talent and use our marketing solutions to make sure you're getting your message out there. So before we go too much further, there's sort of two URLs I want everyone to remember. And of course, this will be archived on YouTube, so you can go back and check this again later. But LinkedIn.com/military is the first. That's where we've got all of our resources for veterans and military spouses. And this is also where you can get now for veterans and military spouses, where you can get your 1 year of access to premium subscription. So it's what we call our premium career subscription. It includes all sorts of additional sort of tools for networking, messaging tools that you get access to that you wouldn't otherwise have gotten. But then really critically important, I'll talk about in a moment here, is access to LinkedIn Learning, which is our library of 12,000 online courses, which is really critical for someone who's really just starting to get their business off the ground. Second, though, is smallbusiness.linkedin.com. So there's all sorts of resources out there. If you've got any sort of key subject matter area, you've got a nonprofit.linkedin.com, a university.linkedin.com. Think to do the Googling to find all those for yourself. But for all of you, start off with smallbusiness.linkedin.com, and I'll show you some of the tools that we have there. A lot of that is really, it's free tools. There's going to be a bunch of stuff in there. There's a couple of guides that we're linked to in the event registration for this, a small business owner's guide, and a company pages playbook. which I think once this thing is sort of recorded and archived on YouTube, we can add the links to those in the description. So if you are watching, hopefully we'll, or if you're watching on YouTube, hopefully we'll have those descriptions up in the link later. But there's a couple of free guides in terms of sort of how to hire with LinkedIn, how to market, how to sell. And then there's obviously going to be links to our paid solutions as well. We are a business-to-business company, and so there's going to be some stuff in there that you can buy to sort of amplify the free stuff that I'll be spending most of my time on today. So when you think about LinkedIn as an entrepreneur, as a startup owner, there's 4 sort of ways that I want you to think about how to make the most of our product. The first, and I think most importantly, is to develop the skills that will make your business successful. That's where the value of LinkedIn Premium is going to come in. Even if you're, if you've already got your branding locked down and everything else, we'll talk about sort of how you can use LinkedIn as a learning tool, which is going to be incredibly important to develop your skill set. Second, though, your personal and company brand. How do you actually tell your company's story? How do you then use our search tools to go recruit a network that's going to be supportive of you? And then how do you use that network and your branding tools to market to potential customers and make sure you're selling to the right people? And then finally, obviously, once you've got this thing off the ground a little bit and you're ready to start growing your team, how do you use LinkedIn to make sure that you're hiring the right people? So we'll start here, developing skills to drive success. And I would actually encourage all of you to look this article up on New York Times. Obviously, some of you that are out there starting your own business as a veteran entrepreneur want to be the next, Bill Gates or Warren Buffett. But some of you guys are just going to have a small craft business and, just kind of be, making money to pay the rent and everything in between. And regardless of where you sit on that spectrum, this article is a really solid resource of really wisdom from the world's top entrepreneur, the world's top CEOs, if you will, on really commonalities across industries, across genders and races and geographies and size of companies. But the one I want to draw your attention to that is the most important is this concept of lifelong learning. I won't read this whole thing to you here, but you can see right at the top of this quote that I've pulled. They share a habit of mine that's called applied curiosity. This notion that they're always hungry to learn something new. They're always looking to understand the second and third order questions they should be asking about a problem that they're facing, always looking to develop a new skill set. And to be completely honest, again, this is probably not what you expected me to start talking about when I was talking about LinkedIn and being a small business owner. But this lifelong learning is the most important thing, and we've got a host of tools to help you do that. And that's, again, like I said, where your access to LinkedIn Premium for free comes into play because you get access to LinkedIn Learning. And so LinkedIn Learning is this online library of 12,000 professional courses. There's really, I always like to say that the value of LinkedIn Learning or the extent of the value of LinkedIn Learning is really only limited by your level of curiosity or your level of creativity to which you can think of things to look up, if you will. So, at day to day in the company, I come from the veteran services background, and I now work in this big private sector company. I'm always hearing terms that I've never heard of. I met someone the other day that worked on one of our sales operations teams, and I thought, well, I don't know what that is. And I went over to LinkedIn Learning, and sure enough, our head of sales operations put together a LinkedIn Learning course for an hour, describing exactly what that is and how the company thinks about it and how we approach that problem. So you can see just a couple of examples here, and I'll actually walk you through a whole list of courses that are going to be relevant to you as an entrepreneur. But even just the basics: build your network, small business marketing, understanding cash flow to make sure your business is profitable, sales secrets for small businesses, anything you can think of, any problem that you run into along the way. Even if it's just, hey, I got to do the books and I've never used Microsoft Excel before in my service. There are literally a couple dozen courses from the very basics of how to start using Microsoft Excel all the way through to the most complex. There's actually Microsoft Office offers a Microsoft Excel certification you can pursue. So, think to, whenever you hit a roadblock, realize we've got a resource for you to supplement all the great training that IVMF does. Obviously, a lot of the folks that are, with us today are alums of IVMF entrepreneurship programming, whether it be the programming for women entrepreneurs or vets with disabilities or caregivers or even Operation Boost to Business. Use take your curriculum from that. Go back and look at your syllabi and go to LinkedIn Learning, because I bet you didn't remember everything from class, right? And so there's these courses are all sort of curated as either individual courses or as a part of what we call a LinkedIn Learning pathway, which is basically a curated playlist. And so the one I want to draw your attention to most specifically is Become a Small Business Owner. So maybe there's some folks watching today that haven't yet gone through an IVMF entrepreneurship program or are considering doing so. This would be a great way to start, right? So you can see there's 14 hours of training here with 10 courses. I won't read off the title of every one of these courses. I'll just, click through these kind of slowly. But all you need to do there is, to find all this stuff is go up into the search bar within LinkedIn Learning and just literally search for small business or business owner. And you'll find all these various different courses that, again, go everything from, the ideation process all the way through to, finance and, budgeting and hiring the right team. And then obviously for every small business owner, one of the most important things in any curriculum is talking about not letting it completely own your life and making sure that you're leading a fulfilling life outside of work. And we've even got courses on that too. So if you're interested in starting a nonprofit, not every veteran entrepreneur wants to start, or military spouse entrepreneur wants to start their own actually for-profit business. There's a handful of courses that we have specifically for nonprofits. And there's actually a nonprofit.linkedin.com too, if you're interested in that. So really, I'm beating a dead horse, but the wealth of information that's in this platform is just really quite stunning. And you can find pretty much anything you're looking for. So how you get there, you can see here we're at my homepage. You'll either have where you see on mine, because I have access to this thing called LinkedIn Recruiter. That's the one that's to the right of this little work grid. Your LinkedIn Learning box might be there, depending on what you're already subscribing to. But click that work box and check out the Learning tab. And obviously, I would also advocate click around and see all those other things that we've got for you, because there's a ton of stuff on LinkedIn that folks just aren't even aware of until they start actually poking around and exploring. So you click that Learning box, and it's going to take you to the LinkedIn Learning homepage. And you can just be off and running from there. So two, though, is, all right, you've got your idea off the ground. You've taken some courses. You kind of know what you're looking for. Next step before you even start to reach out to others and ask for help is building your personal brand, right? So we'll start there with your profile. And I won't talk much today about sort of what to write in your profile, but the importance of your brand. And really, we'll talk about some of the visuals here. When someone looks at your profile, when someone looks at your brand materials from your company, obviously that needs to look super polished. It needs to look really well presented. It needs to all, present a coherent message. And the same themes should be coming through across every one of your materials. And so the first thing I want you to really understand is that your LinkedIn profile, your individual profile, is the first building block of your company's brand, right? And so if you look at this, I've chosen 3 different entrepreneurs. 2 are veterans, one's a military spouse. And we're looking at these profiles from mobile, right? So about 80% of LinkedIn's traffic comes on mobile. So you want to really think about 2 different ways to optimize your brand. One is desktop and 2 is mobile, right? And so you'll see, and I'll show you on the next screen here, how things are represented differently, visually differently on our platform, depending on which platform, which mode of our platform you're using, right? So if you look up here, Ken Quaglio, Lindsay, and Brian, let's start with their background photo, right? Each of these 3 has created a branded background image that just adds a level of polish to their profile. That that these are all CEOs of their companies and leaders in their industry. As soon as I look at that person's profile, I don't even need to read any words. I've already got a sense for, what this person is up to, right? Each of their profile pictures is going to be industry appropriate, right? And so Brian's working in a little bit more of a formal industry, perhaps, than Ken is, or Lindsay. You want to really think through what's the culture of the industry, right? and make sure that you've got an appropriate profile picture. You can also see here the headlines. I often encourage job seekers to think about a more conceptual headline, like, transitioning military finance professional or something like that. But for you, you're using your profile as a tool to advance your business, right? And so you need to make sure that your headline right straight up front says CEO of your company or founder of your company. And you can see also here, Lindsay's added that she's the military spouse of the year, just adding another bit of cachet. And so, when you're looking for other people, for example, like if you do a search for me on LinkedIn, if you go into that search bar and you type in Daniel Savage, you're going to see a list of, 15 different people named Dan Savage, and you're only going to see our name, our headline, and that photo, right? And so that just really emphasizes the importance of the photo that you're choosing and the headline that you're choosing. If someone only sees that, are they going to click on that? Is that going to make them interested to learn more about you, right? But you can see here, because of the different ways in which our platform's built, I'll go back and forth here a couple times to emphasize, and hopefully you're already picking up what I'm looking at. But let's start with visuals, right? So you look at Brian Butler, and he's got this really well-designed background image where on the left, it says the name of his company, vision, strategy, action. On the right, he's got, the URL of his company. Ken does the same thing where he's got the logo of his company on the right. But when we go to desktop now, Brian's photo moved to the left because our platform actually is different when you look at it from one platform to the next, right? And so Ken over here is optimized for both, right? So if I go to Ken's profile, his photo is going to move to the left and his logo is still going to be on the right, right? When you're thinking about your branding, it's those little tiny things that make a difference that show, is this more professional looking than another, right? Next up is your headline, right? What is your company, or not your headline, your summary, right? This is your introduction to who you are as a professional, what you care about. But for a CEO or for a founder, this is your introduction to what your company is, right? Before you've got a website, before you even got a LinkedIn company page, this is the only thing people are going to see. This is your website for your company, right? Until you develop another one. So you want to make sure that you're maximizing the use of that summary to talk about what you're passionate about, where your expertise lies, and also be explicit about where you are in the status or in the progress of your company, right? Are you looking for investors? Are you looking to hire? Are you looking for contractors to help you do web development? Are you looking for pro bono legal resources, right? This is a place to be really specific about what your goals are, right? But your profile, again, you can see here on the right, this is the thing that makes you credible, right? If I'm pursuing a meeting with somebody, or if someone pursues a meeting with me, on the flip side there, I immediately go and look up everybody on LinkedIn, right? And so I go to look at their profile, and that tells me right off the bat sort of how seriously they take themselves as a professional. And as a CEO, that shows me how seriously you take your company.
Hey, Dan, I have a quick question for you.
Yep.
From Rob Campbell, and he says, what if you're looking at what you believe in versus your title? I know that sometimes people will kind of put their own personality into it. So for example, instead of saying, speaker and CEO, what if you said something more along the lines of, I believe in investing in people?
Yeah. I think your profile is yours, right? You look at that as it's your tool. Like I guess the way to answer the question is think about your profile as a tool and ask yourself, what am I using this tool for, right? And then from there, that headline, how is this headline in service or not to that mission that I'm pursuing?
And then I'm sure you're about to get into this, but what are some of the biggest mistakes you see on these profiles?
Profile pictures. I mean, for veterans, you definitely don't be in uniform in your profile picture unless you're currently serving, right? That's no longer a representation of your professional identity. And so, if I'm looking to do business with someone, I'm unlikely to be, hiring an active service member. I'm looking to hire the CEO of a company, right? To do business with. So number one is, non-industry relevant profile pictures. Number two, I would say is, just bad profile pictures, the selfies. I see so many people taking profile pictures in the front seat of their car for some reason, or, they've just taken a photo that someone else, maybe it's from an event or something like that, and they cropped out the other people in the photo. Just, the images behind choosing the right profile picture is one of the most common. Two, though, headlines, the question you just asked, that's a valid headline to use. A CEO of a company is a valid headline to use, but I see some people that just try to get cute sometimes, that it's just not professional. I also see, this is just a personal pet peeve, but I see people putting like emojis or stars or, various like little images into their name or headline. And that's just not appropriate unless that's, right in line with the character of your company and your customer base. I would not recommend doing that. And then finally, the summary section that we were just looking at, that's prime real estate right there, right? If I don't scroll any further than this, I better know I better have a solid picture of who you are, and for business owners, what your business is and does, right? And this is one of those sections that a lot of people, I think, are, for some reason, a little bit uncomfortable writing. It feels a little strange for a lot of folks in our community, but and so I see a lot of folks that just don't have a summary, and that's just a waste of, that's a lost opportunity. So, yeah, those are what I would say are the biggest mistakes. Anything else?
No, that's great. Thank you.
All right. So once you've established a really solid personal brand for yourself, again, as a brand new small business owner, you got to get scrappy, right? People aren't going to be coming to you, and you got to be really strategic about how you do your outreach. And so when you do that, there's a lot of people, another mistake people commonly make is they'll just hit that plus sign or that connect on when they see someone else's profile. And it's really critically important that if you're reaching out to someone, you state your purpose for doing so, right? And so this is a common message that I might receive. I travel around to a lot of military bases, and I do a lot of public speaking, teaching people about, how to use LinkedIn. This would be acceptable, right? It doesn't need to be a long letter, right? This is just, obviously you can see in the bottom right, there's a character count. This is just, hey, I'm building a business in the marketing industry. I would love to connect with you and learn from, the content that you're posting in the feed or something like that, right? That's totally sufficient. So just make sure if you're on, if you're on mobile, hit those 3 dots that you see on the left there. It'll bring up this menu you see on the right. Don't just hit connect, hit personalized invite, and it'll bring up this, this option or this little menu here. But also don't limit yourself to the people you already know, right? The power of LinkedIn is that we've got 575 million members and really, really powerful tools to narrow those members down to help you find the ones that you're looking for, right? And so you can see here, obviously this list of folks that I'm recommending, anyone who you think you should be connected to, even if it's just someone that you want to learn from, make sure you're strategically reaching out and building your network as opposed to just sort of being passive about who you meet at networking events or maybe who you met in your entrepreneurship class or the professors or whatever the case may be. So here I'll switch over to LinkedIn and I'll actually show you how to do this live. But one of the most powerful components of our platform are these advanced search filters. And so Misty, if you can just let me know if this is working. Hopefully you can see my LinkedIn page or my homepage.
It's switching right now. Hold on. Right now I see your slides, but in a less presentation view.
Okay.
There we go. Ta-da! I see it.
You got it? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we're looking at LinkedIn's homepage. And what I want you to do up here, and if I go too quick, of course, again, we're archiving this on YouTube, so go back. But just click in this search bar, and you'll see search for people, jobs, and content. And you want to click people. And then once you get there, you want to click this all filters button, right? And so what you'll see here is this whole list of filters that you can use to segment out our user base. And so let's say that I'm, a business owner, and I'm saying, I'm looking for someone who does, let's say business development. And then I want to find, I'm a U.S. Army vet myself. So the folks that let's say I'm looking for someone to sell to, right? I want to look for another U.S. Army vet. And so I'm going to go to past companies and type U.S. Army. And obviously you can add, these are the most commonly searched ones for me. So you can add a company if it's not in here. So let's say past company, U.S. Army. And let's say, just because it's right up here, let's say current company, Amazon. And maybe I've got a business in the Seattle area. Maybe that's where I'm starting up my company. And so now you can see I've got 4 filters. I click apply. And now what we're looking at is there are 3 business development professionals, or actually what I did was a title search. So these are 3 people who are U.S. Army veterans who do biz dev for Amazon in the Seattle area, right? With like 4 clicks, I just took 575 million people, and these are the 3 people that I need to talk to if I've got a small business in Seattle that I want to sell to Amazon, right? Or not the business, but obviously my products and services. But you can also do this with schools. So I'll go back and I'll clear the filters. You can add, multiple branches of the military. You can add, this is essentially how you find, like I said, how you can find other vets to reach out to. And don't just use it for, sales or marketing. Reach out to folks that are other CEOs, right? Let's go back down here to title, and we'll say CEO. And I'm just going to say U.S. Army vets, and maybe I'm in New York. How many CEOs are U.S. Army vets in New York? There's 299. Maybe go look through that list and find out, well, which ones are in your industry. Maybe you can reach out to them and schedule an informational interview and ask them for advice, right? But you can also go back to the search bar, and we'll pull up Syracuse University. And any school you've gone to, even if you haven't yet completed your degree, every school is going to have a school page on LinkedIn. And so be careful, some of these pages, if you type in Syracuse, you may find, there's a group for alumni. There's going to be a couple of other options. Make sure you choose that school page, and it's going to bring you right here. Once you get there, though, click this See Alumni button. And you can see this career insights, and it says right here, there's 142,949 alums of Syracuse University on LinkedIn. And so what you want to do here is say, okay, well, again, let's say I'm in the DC area. Now I click that, everything else responds. So there's 7,000 roughly alums of Syracuse who live in DC. And let's say I'm, interested in looking for someone in marketing, right? There's 302 alums of Syracuse who work in marketing, and these are the companies that they work for, and say, you know what, I'd actually really like to explore a marketing partnership with Verizon. These now, if you scroll down, these are the 2 people who went to Syracuse University who are in marketing in Verizon, at Verizon in Washington, D.C. And so again, just really extensive tools where you can add and clear filters. You can also do keyword searches. So like what you can see here, where they work, this is a list of the top places that they work. But there's going to be a long tail on this, and there may be 3 people that work at I don't know, Pepsi or whatever that are in the area, right? And so if that's not on here, just out of curiosity, let's add that. And you can see actually there's 50 people that work at Pepsi, and you can clear this back out because this is a keyword search, and this is actually looking for people at PepsiCo. So we'll clear that out. 50 people work at Pepsi that are Syracuse University grads, right? And so basically you can use this to find pretty much anyone you're looking for on LinkedIn. And really you should be thinking very strategically about when I've got a problem to solve, even if it's not you're ready to market or sell to anybody. Any problem you've got to solve, you should be using our network and thus your network to reach out to people to find advice, right?
Hey, Dan, we have a question about connections, and it says, I have a military premium account, and now I've reached the commercial business limit for connections. What's the actual limit so that they can plan better on? Go for it.
There's no clear-cut answer to that because it depends on what you're searching for and how you're using it. But the commercial limit rolls back every month. So you can start all over. You basically go back to 0 at the beginning of the month. So what is it, the 30th today? Wait until Saturday and you'll be good to go.
Perfect. And then there's another question too that I actually think is pretty interesting. It says, is there a way at some point that they can get their profile reviewed by someone, or there are people that will review their profile? They think they're trying to jam too much stuff into one space.
Yeah. So not formally from the company. We do events around the country every year. And so if you are, I try to do my best to sort of publicize where we're going to be and when. And so I would say that's a good reason to follow me on LinkedIn. But I would say that's what you can use your network for too. Reach out to other people. Like really, if I look at your profile and I'm not familiar with your industry, I can give you some general profile feedback, but I'm not going to really be able to tell you, yeah, this is actually going to resonate with people in the food and beverage industry, right? And so use your network to find someone in your industry that you can reach out to and ask them for advice too.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Next way to sort of reach out, expand your network is LinkedIn's really robust ecosystem of groups, right? And so there's just a couple on here. We've got a group called the Veteran Mentor Network, which is a really powerful group for veteran job seekers. There's not a ton of activity in there about entrepreneurship, but there are veteran entrepreneurship groups. IVMF has groups on LinkedIn. SCORE is called hopefully everyone's familiar with this, but the Service Corps of Retired Executives. Those are folks that used to be CEOs that are looking to mentor folks like you that are looking to start up their business, right? Look for veteran small businesses or veteran entrepreneurs or, veteran vets in tech or anything like that. Depending on the industry that you're in, I guarantee you that you're going to be able to find a group to join. And what I would really, these groups are an outstanding sort of way to crowdsource any questions that you've got or crowdsource, while you're seeking advice or you're seeking connections or input from others. And so that's also great. Go back to the last question, go into a group and say, hey, I'm starting on my business. Is anybody out there willing to take a quick look at my LinkedIn profile and provide me some feedback? And you're going to get into conversations in these groups. Obviously, some are more active than others. And really think about this from the perspective that let's say you start a conversation thread in a group asking for advice. You may get 10, 15, 20 comments. And even if that comment was like a sentence or just a few words, that person has implicitly stated by commenting on your post, like, I'm interested in, or I'm willing to, at least to some degree, provide you help, right? And so everyone that comments on your post, go look at their LinkedIn profile and say, oh, shoot, this person's actually doing some work that's really relevant to me. Set up 30 minutes on their calendar, send them a request for an informational interview, and dig deeper, right? They were willing to share their opinion once. They're probably more likely to share their opinion with you more extensively on the phone or even in person. So groups are an outstanding way to do this. Obviously, the groups that we've got on the screen here are all entrepreneurship groups, but also go into industry groups. And honestly, people are compelled to help vets, right? So if you go, let's stick with the food and beverage industry. There's going to be groups for the food and beverage industry, and you can go in there and say, hey, I'm a veteran. I just got back from, or just got out of the Army, and I'm starting up my own restaurant. I would really love for some advice, or I would really love for a mentor. I guarantee you're going to find people that are going to be commenting on that. And so if you use our advanced search tools to find people, they may or may not respond to you, right? But if you go fishing in a group, the people that respond to you already have. So you can go reach out to them, and it's almost like, a more potent way to find someone to connect with. But we also have this program called, or product called the Career Advice Hub. And so when you go to your profile, if everyone pulls up their own profile, you'll see a thing here that says your dashboard. And on your dashboard, there's going to be a couple of options. One of those should be the Career Advice Hub. This is something that we launched not too long ago, and so it should be live for all of our users. There may be a few of you out there that it hasn't quite reached yet, but your Career Advice Hub is basically a mentorship marketplace. And so you can go in there and you can say, what are you looking for? Where are you looking for advice? What type of industry or job function? You can see this form on the left here is the form for who am I looking to get advice from? And you can actually type in there, hey, I'm a veteran, I'm starting up my business, and I'm looking for advice on the following 3 things. And essentially, this is almost like a dating app. So there's mentors that opt into this, and there's mentees that opt into this. And we've got algorithms that try to match them to find the right people to give you advice. And so once that match is made, we'll pop up a handful of cards of profiles that the people that you might want to reach or connect with, and then obviously it's your choice as to whether to send them a message or not. So, and often I wouldn't say often overlooked because it's a new tool, but a less well-known tool that we have. And again, you can find this directly from your own profile. Next, we're going to talk about your company brand. We've been talking a lot about yourself and how to personally use LinkedIn. But one of the first things you can do to start raising brand awareness is to start your own company page. And so what you can do there should be a link. Hopefully we'll get a link up in the description here for our company pages playbook. But you can also just right now, if you haven't found that link yet, or if you haven't uploaded it yet, just Google how to start a LinkedIn company page, and the wiki for this will pop right up. And we'll walk you through it step by step, right? And you can, like, before you even have a website, before maybe you even have the funding to pay someone to develop your website, this is already built for you, right? All you have to do is upload a couple of images, and you've got a really professional platform by which you can communicate what your company is doing. But this also then gives you an opportunity to look way more official when you add, I'm the CEO of the following company. Well, if you've got a company page and you've uploaded your logo to that company page, and then you tell our system on your own profile, I'm the CEO of Dog Bakery. Now it's official, right? You're linking your profile to this, and you're actually starting to build yourself as a serious, legitimate business on LinkedIn. And so, once you do that, here's a great example of another veteran entrepreneurship program actually out there, Dog Bakery. They've just chosen like a really nice photo in the background of their actual physical facility. And they've done a really great job. And I'll show you a couple of examples of using their page to tell your story. So make sure you're filling out the About Us section. Make sure you're getting every one of your employees to upload their on their own profile, select your company page as their employer. Because if they just wrote like Dog Bakery, for example, it wouldn't actually connect them to the Dog Bakery Inc. Company page. And so this also is where you can start to build your followership, right? And so make sure that you've got the URL for this in your signature block, and make sure that you've got this, whenever you've got business cards, put the URL for this on the back of your business card, right? But this is the great way for you to actually start to push out content, to push out, to tell your company's story, and really, start to connect with potential customers. You can see right here, on our marketing platforms, typically B2B prospects, it takes 7 times for them to engage or for them to see a piece of content for you before they're actually going to be considering purchase, right? That's just sort of the psychological background behind this. But don't just talk about, what's actually happening at your company, right? Talk about industry trends, post articles that you find interesting. And you're really going to be demonstrating that you're a thoughtful member of this sort of industry. You're not just, hey, look at my company and what I'm doing, or hey, buy my stuff, right? But you can also use this to, like we did, this was up on the IVMF company page, if you will. Obviously, IVMF's not a company, but that's the name of the product. Was how we advertised this webinar today, right? So you can build an Eventbrite, invitation to a webinar, an event, or a trade show that you're going to, and make sure that you're uploading it on your page, and getting each of your, we'll talk about this in a moment, but getting each of your employees to be sharing the posts that are coming from your page to increase their reach and increase your followership. And, when you're just trying to get off the ground, deliberately email this to your closest family and friends and everyone in your network and ask them to follow you. Because obviously when I look at this, there's 500 followers of Dog Bakery. If there's 5, I'm going to take that business a whole lot less seriously. So you can build your brand even simply by increasing the number of followers that you have, because people will take you more seriously. The company pages playbook, you can probably just Google this, but again, we'll hopefully get a link up. And this will tell you everything from the very basics of how you get this thing off the ground, through to actual sort of strategy about what times of day you should post, what types of content are going to be, getting you the most viewers. We find that visual posts, videos, and images often get a lot more engagement than just text posts or even links to articles. But then the LinkedIn company pages playbook is also going to show you a couple of examples of good company pages and tell you why that company page is a good example. But make sure, you use that to tell your story, right? You can see here, Grunt Style. Some of you are familiar with this. This is a veteran apparel company. They're using their company page to recruit, right? So they're right here. They've got maybe even this URL here. Obviously, you can see it's a short URL, but you can just upload, if you do have a website, you can upload a PDF of a job description to your website and throw that up here on your company page, and then ask people to share this post, right? And so again, you're just adding sort of layers of polish, if you will. You can see from us or from Unite Us here. This is a company that does that works with IVMF and actually builds sort of networks of social services. But this is a great example of sort of a thought leadership piece, right? This isn't saying, hey, work with us or buy stuff from us or anything. This is telling the story of the company, telling the story of the employees. And so you can either, like you can see here, the URL, Unite Us has their own website. But even if you don't, we didn't talk about this, but on your profile or from your own profile, you can write what we call publisher posts, which is long form articles. You can create your own blog on LinkedIn and then share those posts from your company page. And all of a sudden, we've given you all sorts of tools to look really official, even if it's just like you and your dog in your kitchen, right? You can see here, Dog Tech Bakery, they had something pretty cool happen a couple of weeks ago now, where former President Obama and former Vice President Biden came in and had lunch together. Something cool like that happens. Make sure, like you can see literally, this is just the cashier whipped out their phone and started taking a video. This is a great way to tell your story and talk about, like this obviously is a reputable establishment in DC, but it's a bunch of vets and a bunch of people that are supporting vets that are working together, right? But then you can also sort of use your, like the last slide here was actually posts from your company page. You can also then use your employees to tell your company story, right? And so right here, you can see this is just an example of sort of how I do this. Where we've got 3 LinkedIn employees telling the story of LinkedIn's Veterans Program. So a couple months ago, back in the spring, we updated the way by which we do LinkedIn premium subscriptions. And so you can see on the left here, one of my partners on the federal sales team, this guy, Mike Cerrito, who leads the federal sales team, is helping get the word out about our expansion, our new relationship with IDMe. I mentioned we go to bases all the time. Every time I go to a base, I establish one of the volunteers that comes with us to be our social media lead. And Emily was our social media lead at when we were at Fort Bliss, Texas, right? As you can see here, she's got, she's using all the right hashtags and making sure that she's pulling other people into the post by tagging Patrick Murphy in it, the former Undersecretary of the Army, by tagging me. And, there's this virality effect of, when Emily posts that and she's tagged me and Patrick, now it's going to end up in the feeds of my connections and Patrick's connections, right? And you can see here, there's 237 likes on that. When, if it comes from Emily, it goes to Emily's network. By tagging someone, it goes to my and Patrick's network. But all those 237 people that liked it, it pops up in their feed as well, right? And then the people of those people that just saw it, when they like it, it pops up in their feed too. So there's this like long tail of engagement. You'll see a lot of engagement right up front with the post that you make, but getting people to continue sharing and actually deliberately asking people, tag them in the comments and say, you'll see this if you follow me on LinkedIn. I'm always tagging other people in the comments saying, hey, would you help get the word out about this? Or, there's this guy, Mike Quinn, who's got a really large veteran network. I'll tag Mike and I'll say, hey, Mike, please share. And sure thing, Mike just clicks the share button. And now all of a sudden I've reached his network too. So, again, we're building you these free platforms that you can use to get your brand out there. Make the most out of those, but be really strategic about it. You can see here on the right, when we launched our military spouse program, I actually will send an email to all of my executives when I launch a big initiative. This is our chief marketing officer, Shannon Brayton. And I'll send all them a note and I'll give them like example text that they can just copy and paste into their LinkedIn and click, post or whatever. So that they don't even have to do any thought, right? You just make it as easy as possible. So for me, I'm sort of leading up. For you, if you're a CEO and you start to build out your team, lead down and make sure that, you're giving people recommended social copy and the link so that all they have to do again is copy, paste, and click share. And now you've gotten access to their network too.
Hey, Dan, let's talk about strategy just for a second. Like you said here,
yep.
Got a question. Do you ever post personal stuff on a LinkedIn company page or do you keep it all business?
Yeah. So like you can see here, well, it depends on, I guess there's a couple of ways to answer your question, but you can see here on Unite Us, this is a personal blog post about what is it that makes me passionate and why do I come to work every day, right? And so something like that that's got a professional lens to it and is relevant to the company, yeah, by all means, go ahead and do that. But if you were, like talking about, I don't know, your kid just graduated from kindergarten or whatever the case may be, like that stuff just doesn't really belong on LinkedIn to begin with, on your own personal profile. So I wouldn't then extend that to your business profile.
So if it's tangentially evolved more, sure. But if it's just completely separate,
If it's relevant to telling the story of your business, by all means.
Perfect. And have you seen some companies actually just drop, if they had like a simple landing page before, have you seen some companies just kind of drop that landing page and just almost use the LinkedIn page as their main almost website, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So I would say, let's go back to the dog tag page. No, that's not a good example. So just give me 1 second to pull it up. So there are, and I've tried to stay away from what I'm about to actually transition into for a few minutes before we open it up to any further questions. But I've tried to stay away from sort of our paid products, right? But you can actually use your company page and pay to get what we call a career page. So let's go to LinkedIn and just show you what our career page is. So some company pages are just going to say overview and jobs, and that's what you get for free. But if you basically pay for what we call a career page, you can add this life tab. And so you can see on the regular company page that you get from overview is just about us, company details, office locations, blah, blah, blah. But this life tab, you can actually buy packages to talk about the various subcomponents of your company. And so right here, we're using that. It's almost like additional pages, right? So you're almost building out a website with a whole bunch of tabs using just your LinkedIn company page. And right here, you can see we're telling the story of our military program, the leaders of our military program. We've got actually blog posts at the bottom here from our employees to talk about the story of our company. You've got employee testimonials. So for a small business, especially if you're just getting off the ground, there's enough here that honestly, I actually don't know the pricing for a career page, but buying a career page from LinkedIn might actually be more economical than paying for someone to develop a website for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. So we'll go to, just for a few minutes, I'll talk to you about some of the paid stuff, which you can find from smallbusiness.linkedin.com, but it's worth just sort of letting you know it's out there. So once you've got a followership, you can start to pay. And once you sort of have really feel solid with your brand and you're ready to actually start using LinkedIn to market, you can, just like any other, there's people that a lot of small businesses will use Google AdWords or Facebook ads. We've got all the same functionality, right? And so based on what someone has listed on their profile, you can segment out, I want this ad to go to the following people, right? I only want it to go to other veterans in the Bay Area, or I only want it to go to veterans with bachelor's degrees in the food and beverage industry or whatever, right? I'm just making up some combinations as I go. But you can see like right here, this is from my page. This, are you a veteran? Someone put that ad there because they know that, because our system sees military experience in my profile, and we help people market to military folks. And so what you can do is, from your company page, you can create a post. And then once you create that post, and all this information is in the company page's playbook, once you've created that post, you can actually pay to get it into the feeds of people who aren't following you already. So to go back, the dog tag page had like 500 followers. They can for free segment out who the post goes to. So they can create a post and say, I only want it to go to the veterans who follow me, or the people with bachelor's degrees who follow me, or the people in the following industry who follow me. That's free. But if you want to segment out our broader user base and say, I want to get this into the feeds of veterans who don't follow me, or whatever, you get the point. Then it's going to pop up like this. So this is an ad from Syracuse Online. You can see here that they're promoting an online MBA for vets. And I don't follow Syracuse Online Business already. So you can see this found its way into my feed because it was a promoted post, right? So Syracuse Online Business paid to get this to me. So you can then use, and again, to go back to your last question, Misty, like this is an even more powerful website than your website, because you can actually pay to, you can spend your money instead of developing the website on getting specific components of it into the feeds of the right people. And so you can see right here, just a couple of the sort of engagement statistics. Obviously, if you've got a page, your followership is just going to die if you don't continue to post engaging content, and then also respond to comments and follow back the people that, for you as a startup owner, if it's just you, the people that follow you, you should probably go reach out to each of them and connect with each of them, right? Or the people that are liking or commenting on your the post that you're putting out there, reach out to them and ask them for advice. That's just another tool to use. So your selling power, we have this program called this tool called ProFinder. You may recall from several slides back when I was showing you how to find LinkedIn Learning that there was this little app for ProFinder. ProFinder used to be called our freelance marketplace. And so for, again, anyone who's starting up a business and it's just them or, a couple of folks, this is the tool by which essentially people will go in looking for, and I'll scroll very slowly through all the categories of services. I won't read all these. It's really extensive, but if you're in any one of these fields, you can go in here and basically people will put in like a request for proposal and say, I'm looking for a career coach, or I'm looking for a PR consultant, or I'm looking for a tax accountant or whatever. And based on, there's like an algorithm that says, yeah, this person should know, like this pro, if you will, should know that someone is looking for their services. And so we select, our algorithms identify like who these things should be flagged for. And then if you're the finder, if you will, if you're looking for services, you get back 5 basically bids from the pros, right? And then you can choose who to reach out to. So I wouldn't, to be fully transparent, this is as obviously most of you are just finding out about this now, this is not a platform that, it's a platform that's in development. It's still growing. And so I wouldn't use this as your sole strategy for sales. But this is a great way to sort of basically go fishing for customers. But then once you've gotten, once you've actually connected with somebody on ProFinder and you've done something for them, reach out to them individual profile to individual profile and ask them for a recommendation on your profile. And they can put a recommendation that says, yeah, I hired Misty to do my taxes this year, and it was quick, it was efficient, she did an outstanding job, and she saved me a whole bunch of money, right? And then you can go back and you're now using your, again, you're using your own individual profile to sort of build your business reputation. But then let's say your company doesn't work out. Now you've also got on your own profile a whole record of, all the folks that maybe you did wedding photography for, and you want to go join get hired as a photographer for another business. You've got a whole bunch of testimonials on your own individual profile now to attest to your skill set. So another sort of for sale tool, I think there's one more I'm going to show you here, is called LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And so this goes right back to that commercial search limit question. Sales Navigator gives you more searches. You can see it's a different profile, or it's a different platform. So you see people's profiles differently. You can create lists of potential sales targets. It helps you surface the right people that you should be selling to. And so this is not super expensive. It's more expensive than regular premium, but it's less than, I think it's like $100 a month or something like that. But, again, I'm not the expert in sort of selling these things. So just if you're interested, go to smallbusiness.linkedin.com and poke around about for the sales stuff. But then business.linkedin.com is going to have a whole host of all of these sort of for sale tools, if you will. And one of them for small businesses is what we call LinkedIn Talent. Within our LinkedIn Talent Solutions product, we've got a thing called Recruiter Lite, which, to go back to our the search tools that I showed you before, how you can find a veteran who does business development, who works at Google in New York or whatever the case may be. You can actually use, like, Recruiter's got dozens more filters than the ones that were on that platform, if you will. So, yeah, that's I think that's it. Don't forget about linkedin.com/military and smallbusiness.linkedin.com. We'll post, the IVMF team has the PDFs of these, and so they'll post the links in the YouTube description, the bio, or the description of our session here today. There's also a program, a product that we have that you can download for free, either from smallbusiness.linkedin.com, or we'll upload the link for that too, to the Business Owner's Guide to LinkedIn. If you're interested in starting a nonprofit, again, we have nonprofit.linkedin.com. And some of those for sale tools that we have a whole separate nonprofit sales team. And so some of those for sale tools are all 50% off for nonprofits. So they're even a little bit cheaper than otherwise. So with that, this is just a fun photo of a bunch of folks from my team that went up with us to Joint Base Lewis McChord in Seattle and did a bunch of profile reviews. But we've got a few more minutes for questions if there's any other in the feed.
Yeah, we actually got a couple. So, and they're kind of, some of these are related. So I spent about 11 years working as a tech before getting a bachelor's and an MBA and changing careers. Do you think that they should include that pre-MBA position on their profile, or is it hurting their brand? And related to that, you said earlier, that's not being uniform in your picture, but where do you include your military history to your profile?
Yep. So I would say yes to the first one, simply because, at some point in your profile, when you progress far enough along in your career, you're not going to be showing every job you've ever had, right? It's like your resume, right? You're not going to, you keep your resume somewhat concise, and you want it to be the stuff that's most relevant. But if you've recently done a career change, I mean, the question, it's hard to know sort of how many years they did this versus like how many years in the past that was. But it's a part of your professional story. And if your business has any tangential relationship to what you did in the past, you learned things in that job that informed your approach to your current business. And so what I would say is, make sure, though, if you're going to include stuff like that on your profile, look back at, frame that work experience in a way on your profile that's going to be reflective of what you've learned that's applicable to your current business, right? Don't just talk about super irrelevant things that don't have anything to do with what you're doing now. And so that's the exact same thing to go to the military experience section. So if people look me up on LinkedIn, just search for Daniel Savage, veteran LinkedIn, and I should rise right to the top. You'll see at the bottom of my profile, I've got my 5 years of military experience. And I would say, don't put everything you ever did in the military. Put the things that helped you build the skill set that you're looking to leverage moving forward, right? And maybe it is completely irrelevant, in which case I would keep it super simple. But, your military experience is, one, something you should be proud of. But two, when building your brand as a business owner, to be completely blunt, people love veterans. People love veteran business owners. And if they're looking at your profile and they see that, even 15 years ago, you were in the Army or the Marine Corps or whatever, that's just another way to sort of build an emotional connection with a potential customer, a potential investor, or partner. So certainly you should include that. But make sure, if you look at my profile, make sure you select the actual branch company page. Don't write, USS Abraham Lincoln as your employer. Our algorithms won't know. I'm working on fixing this, but our algorithms won't know that means U.S. Navy, right? So make sure that you select U.S. Navy as the company page, which will do, I explained earlier, when you're building your own company page, that actually links you to that company page if you select the right one.
Great. And I know we have 2 minutes, so two real quick. I don't know if there's a way that you can apply to become a part of the popular services to be searched. And last, to wrap it up before we turn it over to Elvis, if you had to say, out of all these, what is the most underutilized resource that business owners use that LinkedIn has?
I'll answer the first one first, or the second one first, excuse me. There's a reason why I started, I think two. There's a reason why I started with LinkedIn Learning. It's a tool that a lot of people maybe don't think of when they think that they're getting LinkedIn Premium for a year. And I think that we often don't think to, small business owners have to be scrappy and they're looking for resources everywhere. It's a tool that people may not be aware of that might be overlooked, right? Two, though, is the importance of your own profile, right? Like maybe you're putting all of your energy into your company page and maybe you've like nailed it with your company page. But if I go to your profile, it looks like garbage, right? Like your company page says how many, we can go back to the dog tag one. It'll take me a second to get there. Your company page says how many employees. Oh, I've gone too far. Sorry, folks. Probably would be easier just to pull the slide up. But your company page says how many employees of that company are on LinkedIn, right? And when you see that, where were we here? Yep, right here. You can see here, it says, see all 39 employees on LinkedIn. That's a hyperlink. When you click that button, it's going to pull up the profiles of all 39 of those people. And so maybe you've really invested in making a really beautiful, polished company page. If I go to your profile and it looks like garbage, it's just, I take you a lot less seriously, right? And so I would say that's a big mistake that a lot of people do. I feel like there was one other that I forgot to answer. Sorry.
It was, if you were a small business, is there a way to apply to be part of the popular services to be searched, or
within ProFinder?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not sure. I can look into that.
Perfect.
But it's pretty extensive now. So I would say, I'd be surprised if whoever asked that question, I'd be surprised if their industry is not in there.
Great. Thanks so much. And Elvis, over to you. Thanks again, Dan, for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Misty. And I would like to thank everybody that was watching it live and all the ones that registered. And everybody that registered on Eventbrite for this VetNet webinar will be receiving a recorded video link later today in a few hours. So thank you, everybody, and I'll see you next time. We have VetNet coming up September 13th and Wall Street 101 and starting a business. Thank you all one more time, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks.